Welcome, history enthusiasts. Thank you for being here. I searched through old books to discover fascinating facts from the past for you. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. I'll be immensely grateful for your support. And now, let's dive into the history of...
An idea can be more powerful than an army. A spark of defiance, once lit, can travel on the wind, crossing mountains and seas, igniting fires in places unimaginable. It whispers of possibility, of chains broken, of the seemingly invincible brought low. In 1282, on the island of Sicily, such a spark wasn't just lit, it erupted into a wildfire that consumed a kingdom and sent tremors across the whole of Europe. We know it as the Sicilian Vespers. But its true power wasn't just in the immediate, bloody overthrow of Angevin rule. Its lasting legacy, its hidden influence, lay in the potent message it sent to oppressed peoples everywhere. The news spread like contagion. The common folk of Sicily, provoked beyond endurance by foreign arrogance and oppression, had risen up. They had massacred their French overlords in a single, brutal evening. They had defied the Pope, invited a new king, and, against all odds, they were holding their ground. For decades, Europe had operated under the assumption of rigid hierarchies, of divinely ordained rulers whose authority was absolute. The Vespers shattered that illusion. It demonstrated, in visceral, undeniable fashion, that popular will, concentrated and desperate, could break even the strongest chains. This wasn't merely an abstract lesson, it became a practical blueprint, a source of terrifying inspiration. Perhaps the most direct, most chilling imitation occurred 20 years later, far to the north, in the wealthy, perpetually rebellious region of Flanders. The year is 1302. The city of Bruges chafes under French occupation, just as Palermo had chafed under Charles of Anjou. Tension simmer, resentment brews. And then, the spark catches. In the pre-dawn hours of May 18th, the Flemish militia, artisans and weavers armed with makeshift weapons and burning indignation, moved through the sleeping city. They called it the Bruges Matins, the Bruges Matins. The timing dawn was deliberately chosen, echoing the Vespers, the evening prayers, that had signaled the Sicilian uprising. But the imitation went deeper, into terrifyingly practical detail. Just as the Sicilians had reportedly used shibboleths, code words like Sicily, to identify hidden Frenchmen unable to pronounce the local dialect, the Flemish employed their own deadly password. Child en vriend shield and friend. A simple phrase, impossible for French tongues to mimic accurately. Those who stumbled, those who revealed their foreignness, met the same swift, brutal fate as the Angevins in Palermo 2 decades earlier. The Bruges Matins was a shocking success, leading to the annihilation of the French garrison and paving the way for the famous Flemish victory at the Battle of the Golden Spurs later that year. The echo of Sicily was unmistakable, a conscious, bloody homage. The ripples continued to spread. 9 years later, in 1311, unrest boiled over in the heart of Christendom itself. Rome. The papacy, at this point, was deeply under French influence, with the Pope residing not in Rome but in Avignon. This Babylonian captivity fueled resentment among Romans who felt abandoned and dominated by foreign interests, particularly French cardinals and administrators. When open rebellion broke out against papal authority and its French proxies within the city walls, contemporary chroniclers immediately drew parallels. They saw the same popular fury, the same rejection of perceived foreign control that had defined the Sicilian Vespers. Tellingly, the Roman rebels, seeking powerful allies against the Franco-papal forces, appealed directly to the crown of Aragon, the very power that had stepped in to protect Sicily after the Vespers. The pattern was repeating. Popular uprising against perceived foreign domination, drawing inspiration from Sicily and looking to Aragon for support. Further south, another island caught the fever. Sardinia, in 1323, was largely controlled by the powerful Italian maritime Republic of Pisa. But Pisan rule grew increasingly heavy, taxes mounted, and local Sardinian nobles and communities yearned for autonomy. When they decided to rise up, their leaders didn't look for novel justifications. They explicitly invoked the memory and the success of the Sicilian Vespers. They pointed to their Sicilian neighbors as proof that a determined populace could overthrow an established power. And just like the Sicilians before them and the Romans more recently, they knew where to turn for help. They sent envoys to the King of Aragon, offering him sovereignty over Sardinia in exchange for military aid against Pisa. The appeal worked. Aragon intervened, and after a protracted war, Sardinia became a cornerstone of the burgeoning Aragonese Mediterranean Empire. Once again, the Vespers served as both inspiration and strategic playbook. The power of this narrative, the enduring symbolism of the Vespers, transcended even its original context. It evolved from a specific historical event into a timeless allegory for resistance against tyranny. Fast forward over a century and a half, into the mid-15th century. We find ourselves in Catalonia, the very heartland of the Aragonese crown. Ironically, the Catalans are now rising up against their own Aragonese king, John II, during a brutal civil war fueled by disputes over succession and regional rights. In their manifestos, in their justifications for rebellion, what example do the Catalan rebels cite? The Sicilian Vespers. They invoke that Lomigo Uprising not as an anti-French or pro-Aragonese event, but as the ultimate proof that tyranny can be overthrown by the hands of simple people. The memory had been stripped of its specific political context and distilled into a pure symbol of popular empowerment. The fact that they were now using this symbol against the very dynasty that had benefited from the original Vespers demonstrates the incredible adaptability and enduring resonance of the event. It had become a universal touchstone for anyone fighting against perceived oppression, regardless of who that oppressor might be. So, the Sicilian Vespers were far more than just a bloody footnote in medieval Italian history. They were a catalyst. A shockwave that destabilized assumptions about power across Europe. From the canals of Bruges to the ancient streets of Rome, from the rugged mountains of Sardinia to the heartland of Catalonia itself, the echo of those Vesper bells resonated. It served as a terrifying warning to rulers and a potent, enduring promise to the oppressed. That the people, united in desperation and courage, held the power to reshape their own destiny. The spark lit in Palermo in 1282 proved that even the tallest towers could be toppled from below, a lesson that would inspire and incite for centuries to come.